right.
Hello and
We're
welcome
back.
to another week of
Sex Talk with Jerry.
Narf.
Are we doing another NPR opening?
Yeah, I was trying. But you
Sounded
guys
very
talk.
seductive.
I know, but you guys talk so loud, and I'm over here trying to be like, hello, Snarf talk.
That's disturbing. Jerry, we're back with another special guest.
We are, and we told you last week he would be here.
2 weeks in a row.
It's great to be back again.
Tim McDonald.
Mr. Tim McDonald.
Yep. This week's a big one, though, and this is something I've been waiting for months.
Yeah.
Months.
Literally.
Because you came on a while ago and had said that you never watched any Marvel movies. And then all of a sudden you decided, maybe I'll give them a shot.
Mm-hmm. Actually, when I was on last, I had started watching them, but
Right.
prior to that, I had.
But you
not
were
seen any
only,
of them.
what were you, like
Five.
Yeah, 4 or
probably.
5 movies in. What are you doing? You're ruining. Chris is ruining
You moved your position.
the whole.
You got too close.
I'm gonna move again. I'm sorry.
He's ruining
I'm
the
very-
whole video podcast
I'm very
element
fidgety,
right now.
and I can't sit still. So
People need to see the meat behind the.
Man,
I don't know. What does that say?
the meat of the man.
The. I don't know.
No,
I don't
that's
know what I'm
not-
gonna see. The meat behind the man.
please
No.
stop talking about my meat.
Anyway, so
Anyway, yeah, you had watched like 4 or 5, and
what was that podcast? Did you ever look it up?
I didn't. I guess I should do that.
So we had him on because
Breaking the Pact.
Yeah, Breaking
yeah.
the Pact, 35.
so
Wait, it's in here.
tell us a little bit about refresher for the people listening that maybe missed that one. How you go about living 34, 33 years of your life without seeing a Marvel movie, and then what got you interested in watching them all?
Well, I mean, 33, 34 years isn't fair because they came out with them in, what, 8? Was that the first year? 2008? Was that Iron
Yeah,
Man?
2009 maybe Iron Man. So yeah,
So
10 years.
So my refresher was
Yes, August 1st, episode 35, Breaking the Pact. That
Okay.
was your first one.
yep. So anyway, my reasoning for never watching any of these movies, and I feel like there's a lot of people that haven't, because since I've seen them all, I've
I'm
asked
sure.
people like, "Have you seen any of these?" Oh no, I haven't. But anyway, my reasoning was I'm more selective about what I watch because I don't watch a ton of movies or a ton of TV. So
You're just nose to the grindstone.
just 90s music and
Yeah,
farming.
just-
We're going to talk about 90s music later, maybe.
Yeah, we are.
I love 90s music. Like farming, too. We can talk about that. But anyway, so I'm more selective about it, and it really goes back to like 2007-ish. I think I'm in college at that point. And 2 movies came out the same year. One was No Country for Old Men. It's a great movie with
Yes.
a very good plot. No special effects whatsoever. It's just the whole movie is great, and it doesn't rely on any of those other things to make it a good movie.
Right.
And that same year, a movie came out called Transformers. I also saw it, and I thought it was absolute garbage. That without special effects, that movie is nothing.
Was nothing.
Right.
Yeah.
So then, like a year later, Iron Man comes out, and people are talking about it, and I'm thinking, yep, that's just another one of those special effects movies. There's going to be no story there.
And that makes sense. I could see that.
Nobody knew what to expect.
Yeah, I could see that take.
And coming with a non-comic book background, did you even know who Iron Man was? I mean,
No,
other than maybe a very brief.
Yeah, probably had heard of him, but I didn't know anything about him.
But honestly, the comic book world didn't see that coming really either.
No,
As-
actually, it was kind of people were kind of making fun of it.
Yeah. Like, why would you put Iron Man as in a movie?
What a
you know?
joke! Marvel sold Spider-Man, they sold Hulk, they sold all their major
Yes.
characters,
And now
they
they're
gotta
now
make an
they're
Iron
stuck
Man.
with Iron Man.
Yeah,
And it ended up
Right.
starting a like a revolution in the comic book industry.
yeah.
Yeah, boy, did it.
Yeah.
So anyway, I hadn't watched any of them. Probably 6 months ago, a friend of mine, well, it was right after
Jerry
Endgame.
Snyder.
No, it wasn't you.
Oh no. Okay.
You're an acquaintance.
Another podcast listener. Was it Jason Steffes?
Yeah, my next
Yeah.
door neighbor, Jason, we just were out chatting one day, and he said something about Endgame. Like, him and his daughter had just gone to see Endgame, and he's like, oh, have you seen it? And I said, no, I haven't watched any of those. And he's like, you are missing out.
Yeah.
You
He's
know?
like, well,
and
you're
I wouldn't
a complete idiot.
And I don't see him being like a comic book guy at all, you know. And his suggestion was like, well, just watch the first one, Iron Man. You know, I didn't watch them right when they came out either. Somebody kind of told me that I should be watching them, so I started with Iron Man. I liked it, and I ended up watching the rest of them. So I'm like, okay, I'll do the same thing. I can watch the first movie. If I like Iron Man, I'll watch some more. If I don't, I won't. And I watched Iron Man, and it was awesome. And I decided that I would watch a few more. And then after watching, 3, 4 of them, I'm like, yep, I'm gonna watch all of them.
Then you're kind of in. Then you're kind of into it.
And really, my whole goal at the beginning was just to get to Endgame, and I wanted to
Right.
get the full experience of Endgame. And you can't just like go watch that movie. And I knew that.
no.
And I knew that before
No, you
watching
cannot.
any of these that it wouldn't be the same to just go and watch that movie stand alone.
Right.
So it's like, okay, if I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do it right, and I'm gonna watch all of them. So I watched all of them in order.
It's such an amazing position to be in. You're like a unicorn. You know that?
Oh yeah.
You're like a rare unicorn.
No
Like,
joke. You can't find somebody that hasn't watched any of them. You can find people that have said like,
they haven't seen all of them.
I've seen 5 or 6 movies, and yeah, they're good, but I'm not caught up. Somebody that has never watched one and then started from the first and finished with the last.
and got to watch the whole saga after it's done. Basically,
In a row?
binge watch 10 years worth of continuing story.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, like in March, I hadn't seen a single one, and I can't remember exactly when I started watching these. I feel like it was probably like April or May when we should have been planting, and it just kept raining.
Right.
And so I would watch, a movie one night, and then a few days later I'd watch the next one, and maybe a week would go by and I'd watch another one. And then as they started going along, it got where like, no, I want to see the next one.
Yeah,
know?
you
So
got to get to
There
the next
towards
one.
towards the end, it's like, okay, I watch this one, and then the next night I watch the next one, and then I would kind of go on a streak because I just
So
want to know what happened.
Can you imagine what it was like to be like how we watched them, right? Could you imagine after watching it the way
no.
you did to have to wait a year to
So
I
2
made
years
that
between?
exact comment to
He
Jerry
said that to me.
so it was after I watched Infinity War, and I had just finished that one, and a couple days had gone by. I hadn't watched another one, and I said something to him like, I can't imagine what it had to have been like to wait a year to watch Endgame, because I can pretty much watch it whenever I want. you
Yeah.
know? And I didn't. I watched, there was 2 in between Infinity War and Endgame, so I watched.
And I
both of
tell you
those.
what, that was one of the.
That was almost torture for me.
Oh
it's
my
like,
gosh, that was
Captain
a brutal.
Marvel was really torture for me.
That's not true.
It
You
wasn't that
liked
bad.
it.
And I really liked Ant-Man, so the Ant-Man and the Wasp,
Yeah.
It's
That was
like,
a surprisingly good movie.
I was
was
excited
good.
to watch that one, but still at the same time, it's just like I'm just watching this so that I can get to
Yep.
Endgame.
That's
Exactly,
how I felt
that's
watching
basically
them in
what you are.
theaters, too.
Yeah,
Especially, I mean, once Infinity War came out, it's like, what do we do now?
Yeah.
You see it, you know what happens, and then you're stuck for
You have
literally
a
at
year
least
to
a year
Think about what they're gonna do.
before you can know. And then you try to,
And that's why it literally captured the world's imagination. I mean,
yeah, you try to fix it with like hardcore drugs and alcohol
Yeah.
abuse, and and it didn't work.
Yeah.
It probably did end up being like 2 weeks between the time I watched Infinity War and Endgame. Just some other
It
stuff.
was 2 weeks.
something like that.
Wow.
So it's definitely not a year.
I never thought it would have been 2 weeks. That seems long, even to me, for you to wait. But
I watched the other 2, and just other stuff came up. It's not like I was watching something else. I was just working on stuff. And
I was thinking about this. Like, so even if you started, let's say in April, that's the 4th month of the year, and you finished in September. So you've got, what is that? 9
6
months,
months, 6
or
months.
6 months from the time you started to the time you ended to watch 22 movies. And that's been over the last 11 years.
right.
That's incredible. I think that's so cool. And I'm almost jealous of it, even though I could never, I will never be in that situation for any of these movies.
Here's
any movies,
here's the
really.
Yeah,
here's
any
the
of these
one
movies.
bad thing about it though.
This is a rarity.
But you probably rewatched some of these movies and caught things that you didn't the first time.
Yeah.
I never rewatched one. Like, why am I going to rewatch it? Even if I loved it, I'm just going to watch the next one.
Right now, yeah. I guess you're right.
So,
And you're
when I get
saying
to
like
my-
in
when
the
when we get to the list, I'll tell you.
I mean, we can start.
There's 2 movies that I've watched twice. There's only 2,
Okay.
because I just went on to the next one. But
I mean, start.
there's 2 that I like so much that I
Okay.
watched
Well,
again.
So you brought so you did a top 12.
Well, yeah, it's really a top 10, and then you told me you're like, well, I've got some.
Well, since you guys did your list, like 3 more movies came out. So
Well, right, and,
Yeah.
and we're gonna go over what our top, what Chris and I's top 10
guarantee
were.
you that one of those 3 movies that came out would make your list. So
What were the 3?
positive.
So 2 of them would probably make mine.
2 of them absolutely would make mine.
Ant-Man and the Wasp, Captain Marvel, and then Endgame.
Oh, and Spider-Man Far
And
From
Spider-Man Far From Home.
Home. So
All right. Yep.
Did you watch that?
I did.
Okay.
You want to know what's so funny about that?
Yeah, because at
So-
the time you
so-
hadn't watched it yet.
So I
when
got
you texted
through.
me.
Yeah, I got through Endgame, and then I let that soak in for a while, and it's like, okay, well, I'm gonna finish this up. I'm gonna watch Spider-Man Far From Home.
Yeah.
And it wasn't released on video yet, so I had to wait a couple days.
Oh, a couple days.
Yeah.
I thought you were gonna be like, so I pirated
I
it.
just got it in the mail today.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
Can I
excited.
have it
Yeah, sure.
with what's that other movie? The Shadow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because I just download the digital copy, but I always buy the discs, just for this very
That's a
reason.
good idea.
Because I buy them now all in 4K.
I'm basically supported by you. So.
Even though I don't have a 4K
For
TV or a
movies wise.
4K thing to watch them with.
Do you own all of these movies?
I own every one but a couple. As you go through them, I'll tell you what I
Man,
don't.
I don't.
Man, I could have saved a lot of money.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
you definitely
you
could've.
really
I
could.
mean, a lot of these are on Netflix.
Did you know
Yeah.
they're releasing a giant box set of every single one of them in 4K? It's
Are
the
they really?
Infinity Saga, and it's
Well-
every Marvel movie in 4K.
I mean, and Disney Plus is gonna have every Marvel movie.
no, they're not. They're only going to open with 8 of them, I think. They're
Really?
gonna release a couple more every year. Yeah, they're not releasing with a
Oh,
lot
I
of
guess
them at all.
I thought they would. That's dumb. So yeah, let's start. You can do if you want to do start from 12. Just start from 12.
Okay. 8.
We don't have 12. We'll start with you at 10.
Okay.
Okay, so
Well, you're gonna throw an extra one in there or 2.
Oh yeah, I guess I could. Do you want to if we can do it in time? We've got 47 minutes. Do you want to update our 10? Or
no,
just
no,
stick with it?
It's fine.
Okay.
We can discuss it later. What we might throw in and throw out.
Okay.
So,
Okay, so-
go with your number. Do you want to do 10 and then 2 honorable mentions, or you don't want to start with 12?
Well, so then with our 2 honorable mentions, can we use the movies that have been released since we released our top 10?
Too many rules. Number 12. You're.
Number 12 for me is Doctor Strange.
Oh wow, that's
That's low.
Much lower.
I had Doctor Strange at number 2.
Yeah, you
Yep.
did.
So
What about you?
I've got it as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
5. Okay.
So at this point, I don't need to explain why it's on my list. I need to explain why it's not higher.
Yes.
And there's a
you
reason
do.
for that. I love the character. I love the story. There was just something about that movie that I felt like he went from surgeon to sorcerer supreme too damn fast. Like it
Well-
happened too fast. So he, as far as character development, it wasn't really there. Like he did develop a lot as a character, but how in the hell is he performing surgery? And then it's like a week and a half later, he's sorcerer supreme.
Well, I
That
would
was my main
argue.
beef.
I would argue the fact that he does have a certain stone that is giving him
right.
power.
I will say that's a good point that I
but
never
it is
thought
a-
of, because coming at it from a fan previous
You
to
just
this,
know.
I just know, like,
that he is.
There is a Doctor Strange animated movie that came out probably 10
You
years
know
ago.
all of these characters.
Right.
Well, but that animated movie, Doctor Strange movie, which you should definitely check out. I believe it's on Netflix. It's more of an origin story. It dives deep more into the origin story. So I didn't need that.
Right.
But
Right.
you, coming from
I did.
completely blind, you needed that.
My opinion is that it should have been 2 movies. There should have been the origin story, and then there should have been another one later on.
So you don't
With
grow
I don't think
tired of-
Dormammu should have been in the first one because of the weight and like the weight of that villain, like
Yeah.
what he had to do in order to get rid of him. Like you in the comic books, this is like an extreme amount of years. I don't even remember how long it was, but it's like
hundreds of thousands of years.
yeah, it's like hundreds of thousands of years of him doing the exact same thing in order to defeat this person,
Right.
and they cover that in a relatively quick sequence in the movie.
Yeah, like I don't know how much time is supposedly supposed to pass in the movie, but it feels like a week and a half.
But yeah, in the comic book world, it's literally like, let's say 150,000 years of him doing this in order to defeat this person. So it is, yeah. It should have been split
didn't-
up, I think.
Yeah, and not in retrospect, they probably didn't utilize the gravity of that villain. It's not really clear.
Right.
It's pretty vague. It's like a vague villain kind of. When
For me, having no background,
right,
it's
but
like,
for me having the background, I filled in all those gaps in my mind. So
Exactly.
it didn't bug me.
It didn't bug
so
me
you
either.
You don't bump into this thing where you get sick of origin stories. Coming, see, from a fan, from a long time
we
fan.
can talk more about that as I get into the list. 'Cause
Okay.
some I like and some I don't as much.
I think maybe one hang up that you could have on Doctor Strange is, and with a lot of these movies, is you didn't see them in theaters.
Okay.
Doctor Strange in theaters in
Blew me
3D
away.
was
Yeah, I could see that.
crazy.
It
and
was.
I have watched Doctor Strange at home, and it's not as good as it was in theaters.
No, and I've
because
watched
the
it at home,
visual
too.
effects are stunning in the theaters.
So I had Amy watch that at
back-
home, and it's not the same.
Yeah.
But either way,
Back to my other point, though.
Still the movie.
If a
Yeah.
movie's gonna get me, it's got to be the story, not the
yeah,
right.
special effects.
Right.
I mean, special effects are cool and it adds to it, but I gotta
special
like the
effects are
story
cool in
first.
that, and it's just like such perfect casting.
Yeah. Oh, it is.
He is
Benedict Cumberbatch.
biatch.
But it just seems like that would almost be better, and I would enjoy it more if like there was a first movie where he goes from, neurosurgeon or just surgeon, whatever he is,
Right.
And then at the end of it, like he
Is
not Sorcerer
saving the
Supreme. Yeah.
is saving the universe.
Yeah, you understand what I'm getting.
Yeah,
at.
I
It's
do.
just like
It-
it happened too fast. It should be.
it's an
split up.
escalation
Like
of
the first half of the movie should be one movie. The second half should be a separate.
They
movie.
had to get
too
that
quick, yeah.
character to a certain point to fit it into the
the
universe.
rest. I
Right.
understand.
Um,
But if we're breaking down the movie as its own thing, that's why it's 12.
And
Still liked it a lot. It's obviously on my list.
It's interesting too because you got to think about that the idea of this cinematic universe, which really, this is the first. It's a first. I mean, there's not a lot of other examples before this of like continuing universes.
right.
I mean, actually, they say Kevin Smith's one of the first because he had a continuing
yeah.
the
really?
universe. But I'm sure there's older movies that had that aspects of that. But it changes kind of how you make a movie, and it changes as the movies go on. Doctor Strange is a relatively late comer.
Yeah.
So the the method of making these movies changed
Right.
from the early ones, like Iron Man, which
Sure.
was a more concise story, to Doctor Strange, where they're like, well, we got to get this
audience
character
up to
from
speed
here to there.
because he's going to be a crucial part
Right.
later on.
He was going to be
So that's
because he's so awesome.
And
But
there's
then
probably a lot of other things in the background, like they weren't going to make two movies, so they
The crazy shit that dude's done in the comic books needs to start happening in the movies soon, and I feel like they're going to do that.
Are you psyched about
new-
Doctor Strange 2, The Multiverse of Madness?
I think so. I think
It's
it'll
going
good.
to be
Okay.
nuts.
Yeah.
Anyway, 11.
Number 11.
The first Avengers. I thought it was awesome when that was kind of the first movie where all these different characters came together.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
it set the tone for the whole universe.
So
Yeah,
basically,
I didn't
of,
have that in my top 10. I think I had it in
didn't.
a honorable mention.
You did.
It's a very, very entertaining movie.
It is.
Like it just as an action movie and as a borderline action comedy, it's effective. It's a very effective
Yep.
movie.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it had everybody buy into what they were doing. Like
Yeah.
that was the first movie that made everybody buy into the connected universe. Like of all these movies connecting to each other, obviously it's the first one that does it, but they did it very well.
And the first real team up movie
Right.
ever.
In a team up movie where you put it's not live action, but it's like a live action movie with the Hulk in it and he's in a team. Like you could see that in a comic book, but any of the Hulk movies before this that people saw, he couldn't have been in a team.
Yeah, I forgot
You know?
about that. This is kind of the MCU debut of Hulk.
Yeah.
I mean, I know he.
well, he had
in Incredible Hulk,
Yeah.
but a different actor.
But that
It's
was
different
probably-
though. It was
So I pulled
a
up the
debut.
list of the order they came out because I mean this is what I went off of when I watched them.
Did you watch Incredible Hulk?
I did
Because it's technically the first one.
no Iron Man is.
Oh, really? Okay. Oh, yeah, you're right. Because there was, at the end of Incredible Hulk, there was a tie-in scene with
For-
Nick Fury, right?
right with yeah.
No.
Yeah,
No, with Iron Man.
Okay, with Tony Stark.
Yep.
There was a post
Because the next one is Iron Man 2.
Yeah, that's
I
right.
guess I don't remember
So
that.
anyway, thinking back here, at that point when the Avengers came out, you knew Iron Man, Hulk, Thor, and Captain America, but you didn't know Black Widow or Hawkeye.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
yeah.
they were introduced in that.
Okay.
And all the other ones came
That-
together because there was no other crossover before that. So it's like you get these 4 characters that you've seen their movies, they all come together, and then you have 2 new characters.
Sure.
Right.
So it was
Sure.
great. I loved it.
And Hawkeye was like he was bad Hawkeye, right? Hypnotized Hawkeye.
He was
Yeah,
that's a
yeah,
hypnotized.
the
Hawkeye.
Loki
Oh.
pokey stick.
No, I think that was Age of Ultron.
No, it was the first one.
Was it the
It was
first
the
one?
Loki pokey
Yeah.
stick.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. You're right.
Number 10.
Iron Man, the first.
The first Iron Man.
And I also had that as number 10.
Did you?
What about you, Jerry?
I have Ant-Man
Okay.
as number 10 in my list.
Why'd you go number 10 with that?
So I kind of debated about where some of these should be. I actually didn't at first have it on my list, but it needs to be there because it was the first one I watched. If I didn't like that one, I probably would have just stopped right there. But I loved it.
That's why I threw it on mine too. And it's hard to not have it higher because it's like a perfect movie.
It really is.
And like
it's
this
an
whole
origin
story and setup and
Yep.
And that's where I screwed
character
up. So,
development.
looking back on my top 10, I don't understand. It's not in it. It's not in my top 10, and I don't
It
understand
should
why I never. I don't understand why I didn't do that right off the bat. Like at a minimum, it should be 10.
I think maybe I'd change it now with Endgame because you realize the finality of
Yes.
this is Tony Stark's story from
Right.
beginning to end.
Exactly, and we talked about that. Like that's a big reason why I feel like he has to be in the top 10 because it is his story from going from
Oh yeah, for sure.
like the selfish rich man
Mm-hmm.
to understanding his purpose in the greater scheme of like the universe.
And we're gonna stop real quick. We're gonna put out a spoiler disclaimer. There will be
Right.
spoilers throughout the rest of this podcast.
And it'll be-
blanket statement. right
Yeah,
here.
it'll be in the show notes, like in the description,
Yeah.
tagged with this right off the bat. Spoilers.
So you
But anyway, that movie had me right from the get go. You know, how cool is it? He's trapped in the cave. He builds the first suit, gets himself out of there.
Yeah.
I was hooked right there.
okay, I gotcha.
Number
Nine.
9.
For me is Ant-Man.
Nice.
Okay, cool. That was my 10. Go.
I had Ant-Man at number 4.
Yeah.
Wow,
Believe it or not.
you got that
Again,
up
it's-
there, man.
Yeah,
That was your favorite movie for a long time.
It was. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I loved it. I loved it a lot. I mean, it's hard. I mean, I look at this thinking, why do I have it way down there at 9? But then you look at what's above it, and it explains it. But
And again, I think the casting is just really spot on for that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Paul Rudd's a goofy actor, but
All the other
I
casting
just
too.
I just don't. Yeah, well, for sure. I just feel like you can't like replace Paul Rudd now as
no.
Ant-Man. He is Ant-Man.
for sure. And I just like how so many of these movies, which I didn't expect, have lots of humor built into it, and I feel
sure.
like they just do that perfectly with Ant-Man.
Yeah, they really
which
do.
is A great story, but just very well placed humor at the right times.
I remember when I was doing my list, a lot of mine landed where they landed because I considered them to be either genre breaking or Marvel flipping the script on something. And that was
Yeah.
one where this was not a superhero movie as much as it was a heist movie. Mm-hmm. And
Exactly.
that's why I like, and that's kind of how I went with all of my picks, because to go in this action movie franchise and say, okay, now we're going to make this little heist movie,
Yep.
Yeah.
little heist comedy, and it's going to be just as important. To me, that was it's genius.
It is genius
And it's
how they
risky,
built it all together.
know?
It is. Yeah, such a small little story that ends up being such a huge part of it. But
I
it
do
really
also-
is a small story.
It's
you
just
know?
yeah,
I think it's
Exactly.
really good timing, like you were talking about with comedy and like the humor aspect. I think it was good timing in the line of movies. You know, like you have all of these big, huge movies that are coming out with like huge storylines and huge plot points, and everything weighs on this one man. And then you do have this smaller, more funny, like more like somewhat relatable character and movie. I think that's exactly what the audience needed at that point
It's almost
in
a
time.
break. It was a break from the heaviness.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of heartfelt moments in that movie.
For sure.
Oh,
With him
absolutely.
and his daughter.
And is this movie as good?
And it comes back later.
Is this movie as good without Michael Pena?
Oh, can't be. He's so funny.
No, yeah.
I mean, when I'm talking about well-placed humor, a lot of it is because of him.
Yeah.
Do you want to know who I think he should go down in history as one of the best like side characters.
Supporting actors,
Yeah,
yeah.
supporting yeah. Of all time. Like in any movie.
Have you
he's
ever
always a supporting actor and he's always phenomenal.
Yeah.
Not to jump off of this real quick. I can't think of the name of the movie right now, but it's
Dora the Explorer?
No,
Oh, that's the one.
it's a huge cast in this movie. I think it actually won an Oscar, but it's like Sandra Bullock.
Traffic?
Nope, not
Okay.
Traffic.
Crash?
Crash.
Okay.
Crash.
Do you like the movie Crash?
Love the movie Crash.
I like it too. And his part in Crash,
It's great.
oh God. Like
So-
if that doesn't give you goosebumps and about make you cry.
As soon as we're done recording this, I'll tell you a story about that movie.
Okay.
Maybe might be a Patreon exclusive.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But I've got a story about the movie Crash, and the only reason why I went to go see it in theaters,
Does it involve?
a female.
Okay.
Oh, of course it does. I knew that before you said it.
Yeah, but
anyway,
we'll talk.
He's a great actor, and
Yeah.
I just had to bring it up because his part in that movie is awesome.
Amazing.
I really like Evangeline Lilly too
Yeah,
in that role. I think she plays it right.
she's good.
Yeah.
8.
Number 8,
Spider-Man: Homecoming.
Spider-Man: Homecoming.
Homecoming at number 8. Man, you're throwing these low.
I had it at number 7.
I had it at 3.
Okay.
Oh, you did.
Yeah, I did. Which I kind of stick by it relatively. I mean, it would move, but it would definitely be in my top 10. It would definitely move now that I know the other movies that are out. But I love that movie.
I have mine at 7. I might, if I redid it, I might actually go up.
You'd bump it up. I know you would.
So why at 8?
It's just a good all-around movie. I like it.
How did you feel?
I really like the villain, you know, and I like
Yes.
that
Michael Keaton.
you empathize with the villain a lot.
Yes.
And
And
it's like,
we
that's how
talked
the
about
movie
that
starts.
in our Darkman episode.
We did.
Those are my favorite villains. Ones
Yeah.
that you understand their motivations and
No.
you actually sympathize with them.
No, we just talked about it in the
The one coming out this week.
well,
villains
3
one.
weeks ago.
Yeah.
The villain podcast that came out,
Yeah.
the second 1-hour podcast. That's when we talked
Yeah.
about that.
Top 10 villains.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Great villain. It's also very cool to see the interaction with Tony Stark
yeah.
and Peter Parker. You know,
By the way,
For sure.
it's like that's
totally missed the big news here on our
Oh,
last
we
podcast.
did. It was so we did the episode 2 or 3 weeks ago, whenever it was. We're recording this at a different time, and we didn't. It came out like 2 days later
Yeah.
after we recorded that.
People are going to be upset we
oh,
didn't talk about
that.
that.
They made amends.
They
Yeah,
made amends.
Spider-Man's back in
Spider-Man is
the-
back in the MCU. Disney made a concession. They're getting 25% now instead of they asked for 50. They're getting 25%. They're putting up 25% of the cash.
Yes.
And they're still getting all the merchandise.
And they're still getting all the
Seems like a good
merchandise.
deal for them.
It's a good deal for anyone. Sony benefits from it regardless.
By the way, I
Disney
always
benefits
knew
from
that
it.
was going to happen.
Yeah.
Well, we had.
I'm not into
also
this like
talked about
you
that
are,
before.
but I remember hearing that. I'm like, oh, they'll figure this out.
They
you know?
have to.
There's
It's
too
just-
much money at
it's just-
stake to
yeah.
not figure it out.
It's either they figure it out or the world blows up.
Yeah. So for me, just to go on Spider-Man, with my theme with Ant-Man, the reason why that's on that list, like all the other ones that are on my top 10, is it because it's the first of its kind in that franchise. First
Yeah.
of all, the Spider-Man movies feel separate from the MCU movies. They just do. But my thing is, it's a John Hughes
Yes.
high school movie. That's what it is.
Yes. So
kind of
That's
the first half for sure.
That's why I put it so high on my list, is that I loved the take they had on Peter Parker. I loved how they brought it back down again, like a smaller take
Yeah.
on Peter Parker. He is this little boy that gets a power and has no idea how to do it. And what's his name? Tom
Holland.
Holland. I couldn't remember his last name. Is unbelievable
Perfect
at playing
casting.
playing that character.
Any other actor, it might not be as good. Tom Holland is spectacular,
Yeah, it's
and
very
Robert
good
Downey
casting.
Jr. is great in it, and John
Right.
Favreau. I mean,
And then the connection they build with
Marissa
Iron
Tomei.
Man.
Come
Golly.
Oh yeah,
Michael
they made
Keaton.
Aunt May
Gosh,
hot.
she
Yeah,
can
love
wear a
it.
pair of jeans. I'm gonna tell you. You know what I'm saying?
she's great in My Cousin Vinny.
Yeah,
Yeah,
love it.
she's great.
So number seven.
7 is Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
Oh, come on,
My number 6 was Guardians of the Galaxy 2, and Jerry's
numero uno.
number 1.
And I would still have it in my top 3 probably
Yeah.
if I redid it.
Why at 6 or 7?
Well, not to ruin my list, but I didn't like it quite as much as the first one.
Guys are
But still a great movie. I mean, I love both of those movies.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you want to know why the reason it's not farther up is because of the movies above it. I
Right.
mean,
Right.
It's a great movie. I liked both of them a lot. Actually, I was talking about watching all of these movies in order. The only time I broke order was after I watched the first Guardians of the Galaxy.
You wanted to watch the second one.
I just watched the second one. Because I kind
Okay.
of knew it probably wasn't going to ruin anything.
Yeah,
Because
right.
it was kind of separate at the time.
Guardians of the Galaxy is another one like Spider-Man where it felt like at the time, it felt like a separate franchise
Oh.
from the MCU. Now, it turns out Infinity War and Endgame,
Yeah.
I consider to be extensions
Guardians
of the Guardians
movies.
of the Galaxy franchise
I
more
could
than
see
the
that.
other ones.
I
Or
agree.
At least Infinity War. Endgame brings it all together. But Infinity War feels like Guardians of the Galaxy
But
3 to
and
me.
yeah,
almost.
you don't get to Endgame without like Guardians of the Galaxy
Yeah.
3, which is Infinity.
And
Yeah.
that for me was another first. It was, I shouldn't say a first, but the beauty of Guardians of the Galaxy 2 is it takes a gigantic space, operatic space, huge thing.
Yeah.
And there's coming off Guardians of the Galaxy 1, which is, that's what it is. And then they go, you know what? Let's make a tiny little movie about family.
Yeah.
Yeah, no kidding.
You know what I mean? It's just like,
But the biggest thing, again, for like the comic book nerd is that they pulled this weird comic book that people really didn't read that much. It's not, I mean, people read it, but it's been around for a while and it wasn't a big deal. Like nobody really thought this was a big deal. And most of the comic book industry, like people that knew this, thought it was ridiculous
yeah.
that they were making a movie from Guardians of the Galaxy, and everybody thought, I don't know why they're doing this. Like, what's
I think
happening?
They thought
here?
that, and then they saw, Chris Pratt, and
Well,
Bradley Cooper. And
Sure,
James
they saw
Gunn,
the castings,
And I mean, really, if
but
you're going to look at it from outside eyes and kind of try to explain the plot and the characters, it is ridiculous.
It's
I mean,
ridiculous.
it really is. But
this is what I've
just
always talked
works.
about with even writing comic books. Like Chris and I could go and talk to somebody and say, hey, we're going to write a book, and we could explain everything to you, and it'll sound like the most ridiculous, stupid shit you've ever heard in your life.
Right.
If you read it in a book or watched it on a movie, it'd be
you'd have
probably
a
enjoyable,
different impression. Yep.
But even if you like Guardians of the Galaxy, if you read what it's actually about and try to explain, well, there's this talking raccoon and this guy that,
tree.
yeah, there's a guy who calls himself Groot. He only says Groot. He's a tree. And then there's Star-Lord. He's a human, but his mom died, and now he lives in space. And
A green
like, it
girl
doesn't
and
make
a-
sense.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's the thing. Like, you got to have an open mind with all this stuff.
Yep.
So your number.
So I'll just say also the reason it's not higher is I could kind of see what was coming. I don't know why that ruined it a little bit for me, but right from the get go,
Yeah,
his
you
dad,
know. Yeah, you know.
Kurt Russell, I knew what was coming. I don't know. Still a great movie.
I like
Loved
the
it.
humor and the heart of it. I mean,
That's
for
my
me.
thing.
For me, the stuff with Yondu,
Yes.
Oh yeah,
There's
that
two-
part is great.
where
Two
he
things with me.
realizes, like, I don't know, man, it's a heartfelt movie.
That's
about
why
family, you know?
That's why I have it
may-
as my number one.
What was his line? He may have been your father, but he wasn't your daddy. Is
Yes.
that what he says?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great line.
And then
And Michael Rooker, man.
he's so good at it. He's so good at that character. My thing is like there's almost like three different things that Star-Lord's going through there. Like he's still like mourning his mother, obviously. He's all of a sudden excited because he thinks he has a dad, and then he thinks he's like super powerful because of his dad. And then he realizes his dad's a terrible person. Then he realizes like Yondu was basically his father his whole time. Like
Why Yondu did what he did.
yes, and why Yondu was doing all of the things that he did. It's this huge roller coaster of emotion for one character. All of these things are happening around it, and sure, you could probably call that from begin with what happened
Not
with his
every
dad
aspect of
but
that,
you don't
yeah.
see the whole like emotional toll this guy's going through. Even though he tries to joke around through the whole movie, it's like that's really affecting him, obviously. But he tries to put on like the I'm the captain face and be the strong guy, and he does come out in the end and realize like you're not gonna treat my mom this way, and I've got better people in my life than you.
Right.
So I'm going to win this. And the heart aspect of that movie just wins me over every time.
Yeah.
Like I love it.
There's a
and then
lot
of
of
course the soundtrack.
Yeah.
You can't beat that soundtrack. Number 6.
Are you on 6?
Yep.
Okay, number 6.
Captain America, the Winter Soldier.
That was my number 8.
That was my 10, 9, 8. That was my 7.
7.
Yeah, 7.
Oh, so we were close there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what jumped out at?
It's like a spy thriller,
Yeah.
kind of, you know?
That's why I had it
That's
on
what
my
it
list
is.
too, because again, with the genre bending, it's not really, it doesn't feel like a superhero movie. It feels like a spy. What's the Jack Ryan movie or something? You know, like
Yeah.
Yeah, Patriot Games.
Yeah.
Or Clear and Present Danger, something like that. Yeah, I would agree with that.
And like, it's just incidental. I don't even know if he wears a suit that much in it.
I think it's a really good. He doesn't. I mean, he's got a black thing on.
Yeah.
It's a really good introduction of Bucky and who he was.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you don't really get that in the beginning, like with Captain America and
It blows
You
my
just
mind
don't
that
get
they're
it.
not doing a whole. Well, they're going to do it on Disney Plus.
right. They are.
A whole winter. That is a deep, good character. Good character. Like you don't even know from the comics. They have a run going right now, and we met the guy.
Yeah, John
who's-
Higgins.
No,
Isn't that who it is?
no.
Kyle Higgins.
Kyle Higgins.
Kyle Higgins. Oh, jeez, I just realized what I did. I didn't.
Kyle Higgins is writing a run where it's actually based in Chicago. He lives in Chicago.
Yeah.
The run is.
It's
And-
over now, actually.
Yeah, Winter Soldier is like he is a agent that's basically helping people get out of crime. Not necessarily supervillains, just any
No,
bad
just
guys,
any bad guy.
You know, like so. It's a deep, interesting character. I've collected that book for a long
But
time.
He's a good character.
the Ed Brubaker Winter Soldier is like the definitive.
which is this movie's kind of, or
Based
that
around-
storyline is
loosely.
based on loosely. Yeah, great movie. Your number. Now we're getting to the meat and potatoes.
yeah, number 5.
Yeah, you know, and I'm defending my placement of some of these other ones, but when I look at this top 5, I mean, everything's where it's belongs because
Yeah.
I stick with this top 5. So my number 5 is Captain America: Civil War.
Oh yeah. So I have that as actually my number 8.
That is my number 9.
Okay.
Why?
Well, you tell us why.
It's
Why is
pretty
it number 5?
incredible.
Yeah, it's a great movie. I mean, you could almost call that Iron Man 4, you know, because Iron Man's just as big as Captain America. You could actually call that
Captain America.
Avengers.
Yeah.
2
Or-
because the second one was kind of bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes.
it's like you're kind of let down with Age of Ultron, and then you get that movie, and it's like, yeah, that's, you know, all the Avengers are back.
Right.
That's actually where Spider-Man is introduced.
Yeah.
into all
Yes,
of these
the
movies.
first Tom Holland.
Yeah.
That was like May of 2016, I think.
Giant
15.
Man.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
Ant-Man.
Giant Man.
So yeah, Ant-Man had come out,
Yes, Ant-Man was out.
but Yeah, so you introduce some more of these characters that, well, you'd been introduced to them, but they kind of mesh with all these other ones.
Yeah.
And it's just a great movie. I like the story of it.
It's a fun movie and a great villain.
Oh yeah, phenomenal villain.
And that airport fight sequence.
Airport fight scene.
Oh yeah, it's awesome.
I just love the villain is just a dude.
Yeah, and it's like a
He's just
it's
basically
almost
Yeah.
like a little
manipulated everything.
twist at the end, like when you figure out why he's doing what he's doing,
Yeah.
and what's all behind it. That was a great little twist, which happens right after that airport scene.
And another thing I think that Marvel did so incredibly well with this whole world is that, so throughout the comic book series and stuff, like Civil War was a thing, but it took so many decades to get to something like Civil War. They placed this one movie in the middle of all of this, like perfectly, to make you like choose what's right and what's wrong. And like
Yeah.
you've got Captain America and Iron Man, and you're like, I just fell in love with these people and I thought they were going to take over the world. You know, like I thought they were going to win everything, and now everything's torn apart and Spider-Man's involved. I really like Spider-Man. And then you see
Right.
Black Panther. I don't even know who he is.
Oh yeah, he was introduced there, right?
Yes, Black
Yeah.
Panther was introduced too. And it's like it's put in exactly where it needs to be to make people want so much more.
Yeah.
Right,
You know?
exactly.
That's true.
It's
Yeah.
almost like the start of the finale, really.
Right.
You know?
That's where the end all
It's like they
begins.
really kicked it up a notch, and
And you really don't.
this is about the time. I was saying like, oh, I'd watch a movie, and then maybe 3-4 a week later I'd watch another one. But it was like once I hit Civil War, it's like I want to watch these.
So that's what I was going to ask you. Like once you hit this movie,
Yeah,
you
that-
had to have wanted so much more than that.
That's the one where it's like, yep, I just need to, continue this progression to the end.
Yeah. That's
So-
incredible.
number
4.
Thor Ragnarok.
And that was my number 5.
Yes, I also 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, I have it at 6. Sorry. Man, I should have put that higher.
Honestly, going into this one, I wasn't as excited because I love Thor as a character, but I didn't care for the Thor movies as much as the other ones.
Right.
Like the original,
But Thor is so badass.
Thor: The Dark World. Oh yeah, I love him as a character. Just, I didn't like his other 2 movies.
Yeah.
Near as much.
It's hard to go back. I like Thor 1 a lot.
I wish they
But
were.
it's hard to go back and watch it because he's like so, like his accent and how he acts is just so much
so
different. It's a
different.
different character.
Yeah, he's very serious.
Yeah, he's very
He doesn't
serious and
joke
he's
at all.
yeah, right.
Yeah, it's way different. That's the only flaw.
I think Marvel finally realized Chris Hemsworth is a brilliant actor instead of just a pretty face.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what happened there.
Yeah, you're
They're
right.
Like, oh, we're not utilizing this guy who's like the best.
Who's really good?
And it's just, the way that movie shifts around, it's just like there's so many different things that happen, and
Yeah.
just that scene where he has to fight, and it's like, I knew it was going to be Hulk. Like, you haven't seen Hulk for several movies. He just like disappeared, and he's going to fight this undefeated character.
Yeah.
And Jeff Goldblum's Weird Planet, and it's like, it's going to be the Hulk that's going to come out of there. And when he does, it's like, oh my God. And then
So
they
that's
fight,
another
and
thing.
it's awesome.
That's another thing. Like Chris and I didn't have, just because we know like the Ragnarok thing from comic books.
Like, you knew what was going to happen.
And we had seen the trailers and we knew what was going to happen with it.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, also the whole comic book run is all about like that planet.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, that was Planet Hulk, right?
yeah, but it's on Ragnarok. Like that's the planet.
No.
No.
Isn't it?
No.
Ragnarok's the villain.
Ragnarok is the thing that happens to Asgard. Like that's
That's
not
right.
actually the name of the villain.
Oh, you're right.
It's the
It's
thing.
like the series
that's
of
right.
events that is the downfall
Of Asgard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Either way, we didn't have the whole like who is this going to be
Yeah.
thing. Like you kind of knew that to begin with, but
But I didn't, and
yeah,
I think one of the things that happened between the first 2 Thor movies and this Thor movie is Guardians of the Galaxy. And I think maybe that's a turning point when Marvel realized that, like, oh, people want funny action movies.
Well, and what other movies was Thor in between The Dark World and
He'd
Ragnarok?
be in Avengers 1. He wasn't in Avengers 2, I don't think. Was
He wasn't? I thought he
Oh, he
was.
must have been,
He
right?
had to have been. He's an Avenger.
Yeah.
He wasn't in Civil War. That's what I'm thinking of. He was in
Yeah,
the
well-
Avengers movies.
Yep.
1 and 2.
He wasn't in Civil War.
No,
I guess
neither-
I never
he-
even paid
neither was
attention to
Hulk,
that.
yeah.
And neither was Hulk. Yeah.
Yeah, because Hulk had disappeared.
Right. I forgot about all of that.
So like he finally makes his return in Ragnarok in that fight scene.
Yes.
I mean, for me,
Golly.
Ragnarok is just, it's just fun.
Oh, it is.
That's why it's up there for me.
It's so good.
Yep.
You know, it isn't anything that's like advancing necessarily the story significantly, although the ending,
Until the end.
until
yeah.
the ending. But it's just a really, really, really fun movie.
And you really get to see Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah,
in
Chris
that
Hemsworth
movie.
and Jeff Goldblum. I mean, to be
Well,
honest,
yeah.
and Mark Ruffalo. I mean, Hulk and
You know,
and
that's-
Valkyrie. You get the introduction of
Yep.
Valkyrie.
That's the one big mistake that we made at Wizard World is never getting a peek at Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah,
We
Could've
walked
been
by the line.
It was long.
It was long. He wasn't standing out there yet. All I wanted was just to get a peek at him.
Yeah.
Like just look at him and
He
say,
was perfect for that role.
Instead, we had to
too.
settle for Billy Zane.
we did. Anyway,
Number 3.
The first Guardians of the Galaxy.
That was my number 1.
Guardians of the Galaxy number 1 was my number 4.
All right. Why number 3?
I don't know. Just liked it.
It's hard.
And
it's hard to disseminate like why it's there,
It's,
isn't it?
it's another fun movie.
And if
Because
you know,
there's
if
two better.
right. Well, and if I was to explain, what I like in movies, it wouldn't be that,
Really?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's just like you kind of brought it up before. It's like, so we've got a green girl and we've got a talking tree and a raccoon. Like if
Right.
somebody was to explain that to you, you'd be like, "Oh, what?"
That sounds dumb.
And it's just like,
And I could
It's-
see you
it's
doing
all-
that to me if I were to explain that to you
Oh,
like
I
on a
would.
random weekend. You'd be
I
like, "What the hell are you talking about?"
like had I not gone through these progressions or progressed through all these movies, and you just came to me one day and said like, "You need to watch Guardians of the Galaxy. Here's what it's about." I'd be like, "Oh yeah, I'm never gonna watch that movie."
Yeah. And you would openly
but it-
tell me that.
Oh yeah, for sure. But it just works. I mean, the soundtrack right from the get go gets you.
just the scene of him dancing around that planet. It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yep. So I think I brought it up before that there's only 2 movies that I have watched more than once because I just watched the next one. So Guardians of the Galaxy 1 is a movie that I've watched twice. And I actually started to watch it a third time, and I tried convincing Rayanne to watch it with me, and she was not having it.
no.
No.
Really?
I don't know how it's
Just like-
possible to not like that movie.
Just,
She didn't like it at all? Like didn't even want any part of it.
it's like, this is aliens and stuff. I don't know.
But she didn't also have the progression that you did of going
Right.
through all of
Of course,
the
you
rest
don't
of the
need that
movies.
with Guardians of the Galaxy.
No,
You
it's
don't-
You don't need that at
It's
all.
kind of standalone.
It's very standalone.
Like that's one movie.
That's
Like
true.
you could just go watch those 2 movies without seeing any of the other ones.
Correct,
And
yeah.
like it. I would like it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'll try and get her to watch it again. She might.
She
My
should.
kids loved that movie.
Yeah.
They still do. It's fun. They
It's
like
all-
Guardians of the Galaxy 2 better, actually.
Oh, really? So do I.
Number 2,
Infinity War.
Infinity War.
That was my number 2.
That was my number 3.
Infinity War was your number 3?
Yeah.
What the hell's wrong with
My
you?
number 2 was Doctor Strange.
Yeah. What the hell's wrong with you?
Like looking at, I don't know how my top 2 aren't everybody's top 2.
Yeah.
Really.
It's really one movie,
It is.
almost.
Yeah, it is.
So your number 1 was
It was Endgame.
Endgame. So let's talk about Endgame and Infinity War
Yeah.
all together because
So-
the whole thing was I wanted to get to your take on these 2
so,
movies
yeah,
and hear.
so before I do that, my question for you is, so obviously Endgame hadn't come out when you guys did your list.
Right.
I mean, where would it fall?
Number 1.
It has to be number 1, right?
yeah,
It
number
would
1.
fall as number 1. It's one of the best movies I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would have
agree.
Endgame and Infinity War as
It's
one
so
and two.
weird to say
Yes.
that, though, with a movie that you couldn't even watch without watching at least 12 other movies. I mean, you probably don't have to watch all 22
Yeah.
or whatever there are,
You-
but you need to watch most of them.
Yeah, you do. For one, you're just not going to know who the hell anybody is.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
there's so many scenes that we're all going, "Oh my god," and you just be like, "Well, who cares that he picked up that hammer?" You know? What
Yeah.
I mean?
Right. Oh
Like,
my
it's
god.
like,
Yeah, there's
what-
lots of callbacks. I told people there's a lot of people when that came out that wanted to watch it that hadn't really seen much, and I told them all, I'm like, you have to see Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2. You have to see Thor Ragnarok because it directly precedes it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, you have to see Spider-Man Homecoming.
Yeah.
And you had to see Civil War. And I don't know if
I
there's
don't
anything
really
else
think you
necessarily
need to see-
have to see.
Do you really need to see Black Panther?
No.
I mean, he's kind of a significant
Yeah.
character in the last 2 movies.
Yeah.
Somewhat.
Yeah, you would actually.
Yeah, because of
To-
Wakanda.
Because they go to Wakanda, they go and
Yeah.
stay there.
Yeah,
I'd say
you wouldn't
Black Panther.
understand Wakanda at all, and that's a big part of the end of Infinity War.
So your number 2 is Infinity War. Your number 1 is Endgame. How far apart did you see them?
Like a week.
A week apart.
Yep.
Were you aware of what was going to happen in Infinity War, or was it completely blindsiding to you?
Nope. I think it's amazing that these movies, you know, some of them have been out for 10 years. Like, nothing was spoiled for me at all. It's
That
funny
is unbelievable.
that if
How
you're
did
just,
you
if you're just
feel?
not paying attention, and then like once I started watching these, I kind of actively avoided.
Sure.
Right.
Well, you
Having
have
them
to at that
spoiled.
point.
How did you feel about
It's almost like buying a new car. Like you buy this different car that you've never had before, and then you start seeing all of the cars on the road all the time.
Yep.
Like that's what happens with
So
these
yeah, I was
movies.
just kind of
too.
oblivious to it, and then once I started watching,
And you don't
them,
really. I mean, I shouldn't presume, but I don't think you were probably or necessarily living a day to day life where this stuff is surrounding you all
No,
the time. You know what I
absolutely
mean?
not.
So it's
Yeah.
like,
you would almost like have to actively go out and look for it.
Right.
You know.
I mean, we don't, but you probably do.
Yeah.
So, how did you feel at the end of Infinity War? If that was a shock to you, was like what even crossed your mind? Were you like, is this really the end of the movie, or
What? Yeah.
can you end a
definitely.
movie like this?
For one, I love how they ended the movie like that. For some reason, I like movies that don't have like the everybody lived happily ever after.
Right?
Yes.
I mean, it's the Empire Strikes Back. you
Right.
know?
Yeah.
It's
Yes.
that's what it is.
So
It
it-
is. It's the Marvel Universe's Empire Strikes
And it was
Back
just cool
before they acquired
because they
Marvel.
had kind of
Star
teased
Wars.
Thanos a little bit, you know. I think they tease him like in one of the Avengers movies, and they talk about him in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Right.
Yeah.
He's in Guardians, and he was in another movie
But
too.
he's
right?
such a great character. You know, he's an awesome character.
Yeah.
We've talked about this so many times, and I'm sorry that I'm going to bring it up again, but I'm going to bring it up again. Josh Brolin is an amazing, like Thanos. Like what he did,
Bring humanity to that.
to bring humanity to the role. And like I've said a bunch of times, like he's doing this all in front of like blue screens with stuff in front of his face, like the mocap suit on and everything. A lot of times nobody even around him. He's probably talking to a stick.
Yeah.
Right.
And he's acting that way for, in front of all those people or with nobody around him. It's unbelievable to me that you can do that.
And it brings it back to, and we talked about it in our top villains episode, which I wouldn't, before these movies, I would never put Thanos anywhere near a top 10 villains
Right.
for me. But what they did with those movies, and they did in the comic books too, but what they really did in those movies is made him a sympathetic villain to a certain extent.
Oh yeah.
You can understand his
Yeah, there's
motivations.
times where you're like, maybe he's right, you know?
Right.
Like
It's
the universe
somewhat-
the universe is suffering and he's got a solution.
It kind of
you know?
makes sense.
right.
Yeah, what is anybody else doing? You
Yeah,
know?
exactly.
But yeah, he's a ends justify the means type of villain, which is what I love. You know, he's a Ra's al Ghul, same
And
type situation.
I just like how powerful he is. So it'd be like so Infinity War picks up right where Ragnarok leaves off, right?
Right.
So it's right
Yeah.
at the beginning of
Yep.
Infinity War where they've got Hulk, you know, Hulk is about unstoppable and Thanos stops him pretty easily.
Yeah.
You know?
There's two. I've always had two issues with the
Endgame.
movies. Well, with Infinity War and Endgame is that one issue was that Hulk didn't ever really come to and be the Hulk.
Yeah.
That bugs the crap out of me
Yeah, we can talk about that.
because I want to see the Hulk be the Hulk. And then again with Thor, I've brought it up a bunch of times. If you follow the podcast, you've heard me complain about Thor. I want Thor to be Thor.
Yeah.
Like Thor, in the grand scheme of things, is much more powerful than what Thanos is. common knowledge. It's proven.
Oh, Thanos without stones.
Yeah, yes, without stones for sure. Even with stones, like he could pretty easily beat him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I wish you can't do that in the movie. I get it. You got to draw it out. It's got to be a movie. But at the end of the day, like when he's defeated, I personally, like I know it's a Tony Stark movie, but I personally would have liked to see like Thor just destroy the shit out of him.
Oh no, I think they
I
ended
loved it.
Endgame perfectly.
I'm not saying the ending should change. I'm just saying I want to see Thor go nuts and kill everyone.
Yeah. So how did you?
That's all.
So let's talk about Endgame then.
Well, no, let's talk
Okay.
more about Infinity War.
Okay.
Because I really haven't yet. So, it starts off like that, and you realize just how powerful he is, and he's just on these missions to collect the stones, and they can't stop him.
He's inevitable.
He is inevitable. So yeah, you kind of sympathize with him. I'm trying to just remember this movie a little bit because the two of them do kind of run together.
They do. Yeah.
You think of it as one big movie. When he gets the Soul Stone, so he's with Gamora, and she laughs because he doesn't love anybody, and you realize like no, he actually does love her. And
Oh shit, that's in Infinity War. I
is.
was thinking that was in Endgame.
No,
that's Infinity War.
Man,
that's
that is
And then-
a hell of a scene.
I'm sitting here thinking, trying
Golly.
to remember what movie is what. That is a great scene.
Yeah.
and that's, gosh,
So yeah, we need to trace back. So how exactly does he collect each of the stones? So
Okay. Well, he gets the one from Loki.
yep, when he kills
When
Loki
he
right
kills
off the
Loki.
bat.
Yeah.
yeah.
And that's the power. I guess it doesn't matter what's what, but
One is hidden in Benicio del Toro's lab,
the collector.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's the reality stone.
the Reality Stone. He gets
that
the
was the
Soul
one that-
Stone.
That's a cool scene too.
Yeah, that is a cool scene.
Gets the Soul Stone from throwing Gamora off the cliff.
Yeah. Gets one from Vision's head.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
Vision's head rips it out of there,
Yep. And
which
that's
is an
the-
awesome scene.
That's
That's
as
the
another
well.
whole,
great scene.
The whole scene in Wakanda.
Yeah, where isn't it like all reversed?
Well, yeah. So
He reverses it all, right?
yes. Once he's at the time stone.
Yeah,
which he
because-
gets from Doctor Strange.
Yes.
Yeah, so he gets the time stone first before he goes to Wakanda.
from Strange, which
Yeah,
he knew
and that's
ahead
a-
of time.
That's
Holy
yeah. Oh, it's such a great movie.
Oh my gosh.
So that's a great scene because as they're going, they go to Thanos' planet, right? Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, and Iron Man, right?
Yeah.
And Doctor Strange tells them, like, on the way there, like, if it comes down to your lives or this time stone, like, you're toast, like, I will protect it at all costs. And then he willingly gives it up,
Right.
That's a huge scene.
Because you're
That
like,
comes back in Endgame.
what are you doing?
Right, exactly. It's like, well, you just said, and then you just gave it up so easily. Like, oh, no, I'll give it to you. It's like, well, that doesn't make sense. And then it gets you thinking, like, well, he just ran through 1 million scenarios or 14 million, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a cool scene.
The
And
scene
then-
with Tony Stark and Spider-Man too, where he's
Say that again.
dying. with
Oh, yeah,
Spider-Man.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
I don't want to go. I don't want to go.
So what? So he gets 4. So then he goes to Wakanda to get the last one, right?
Well, at some point he gets the Power Stone, which was from Guardians of the Galaxy. I don't remember how he acquires that one. The purple one.
The purple
The one that Ronan had. Ronan.
Yeah,
accuser.
See, I feel like the collector had that too.
No.
No?
That might have been on What's the World? Nova's on the Nova Corps. Maybe had it.
He may have had that one when the movie started.
I think maybe he did.
Yeah.
I think maybe.
Like
he had
he,
I think
He
so.
acquired that like in a teaser scene at the end of a different movie. I
Yeah,
think.
maybe. Yeah. So,
So yeah, he gets to Wakanda, gets the last stone. Thor almost beats him
yeah,
with all of the stones and should have aimed for the head.
yep. Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I just love that movie. It's just like failure after failure after failure.
So I would agree with you there. Is like Thor almost beats him and he has all 5 stones,
Yeah. Yeah.
Say that again. I was
You're
trying
just talking
to read.
about yeah. You're talking about how Thor should be powerful enough to beat him, and he almost did when he had all of the stones.
Yeah, which he could have. Really. but they didn't because they have to extend the
if-
movie.
Yeah, if I had one beef, and the answer is exactly what you said, they had to extend the movies. It's like the Scarlet Witch could almost beat him on
Oh,
her
yeah.
own.
Yes,
You know,
absolutely.
Like she's powerful enough.
And then they almost set it up with Captain Marvel that she can just easily handle him.
It
Yeah.
did look that way,
if
and
he
I
does-
bought into
If he
that.
doesn't have any Infinity Stones, she can beat him.
Yeah. But they
you would
cleaned it up
think.
pretty good. I remember at the end of Captain Marvel, I was kind of just like, what the hell? Because they're just making her way too powerful.
Yeah. So
Right.
you didn't like Captain Marvel at all, right?
You
Is
know,
that what
I
said?
liked it. I liked it enough at the time. But in retrospect, I kind of liked it less and less. I don't know.
And even
I
when we,
I actually liked it. I liked that movie.
I like it, but when we left the movie theater, I knew it wasn't one of my favorites because we left it and it wasn't a really good conversation afterwards. We didn't really have much to talk about other than like, yeah,
I guess it's
Yeah, it was-
completely
it was a
different
good
than how you
character.
watch the movies because we waited like all year after Infinity War. And I think we had in our minds that Captain Marvel was the next one coming out. I think we had in our minds that it was going to be
at the level of the movie we
something
just saw.
different. That it was going to be like a resolution
Yeah.
that we were looking for.
Oh.
And it really wasn't. But I did like, I mean,
Yeah,
I
it was
love
just another origin story, really.
basically, yeah.
I would have preferred it had Captain Marvel came out before Infinity War and her not even be in that one
yeah.
because I
Yeah,
don't know.
I
I
can see
think
that.
it because it makes sense. She's off on different planets and whatnot.
Here's why I think they did it. This happened to me anyway. So, Infinity War ends, and it's like, well, how can they possibly fix this? You know, like
Right.
everything is fucked. You know, like,
Yeah.
what can possibly be done? And then you watch Captain Marvel and realize how powerful she is, and you're like, oh, well, there's the answer. I
Right.
Well, and that's the way we
she's
going
to
to
be
took it.
She's going to be crucial in Endgame. She's the difference. Like they couldn't beat him before, but now they have her.
Yeah.
That will be the difference.
Yes,
So it kind of threw you off because that ended up not being it.
which
But she saved Tony Stark, though.
She helped.
Right.
She helped, but it's not like she was the only difference.
Right.
I mean, there was a lot of other things at play.
I think maybe one of my, and I hate to jump on this bandwagon because I know like it's super controversial, but it's not for the reasons why everybody's making it controversial. I just don't think I like her in that role, Brie Larson. I just don't. I don't.
Really?
Something about her. She's just too emotionless, just too wooden.
But again, I think that's because of her training.
Maybe.
You know, like the training with the what are they called? The force she's with,
Kree.
the Kree.
Yeah.
Like that's their thing. He's yelling at her the whole time, like, let go of your emotion, quit being so, don't strike with emotion.
Yeah. There were
Like,
some
be
things I
calculated.
did like very much about that movie, and that was like when they flipped the script with the Skrulls, and they became the bad guys, kind of became the good guys. The good guys can get the
Yeah,
bad
which
guys.
is different.
I like that a lot. I like Nick Fury a lot. The things I didn't like about that movie was the real generic action scenes, especially at the end with Jude Law's character, and then him generally just being a shitty.
He was, yeah.
I mean, I love
I
him as an
agree.
actor, but
It wasn't a good role for him.
yeah, he's really good as Dumbledore in Fantastic Beasts too.
Yeah. Okay. I believe you.
So yeah, no, Infinity War. Like I said, I had it at my number 3. Looking back, I don't know how I could put Doctor Strange ahead of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how you did either.
It's gotta be
Honestly,
number 2.
I love
After
Doctor
I
Strange.
watched it, I loved it. I thought, everyone's talking about Endgame, but how can it be better than this? This is a great movie.
That's what we thought
Yeah.
Yeah.
until we sat in that movie theater and continued throughout the movie. Like I can't. We're just like
Believe.
this is. I can't. I don't know how many times in that movie theater. And we're not the kind of people that talk in movie theaters.
No.
I don't know how many times in the movie theater we just turned to each other and were like, this is the best movie that ever existed. Like
And-
one big moment. That's the thing with Endgame, right? It's one big moment to the next big moment.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like everything that you ever wanted to happen
In a movie.
happening in different like little moments. And it's crazy.
Yeah. And you said it best after we saw Endgame. And you always said you go into a movie with a certain expectation, and most of the time your expectation is higher than what the movie can ever perform because you just
You
what
built
you
it up
see
in your
yeah
head.
you've built something up in your head to where it just can't perform that way, and when you leave you're like, it was very good, just not quite to the level I thought it was going to be, but you can still enjoy it. This one, was beyond that.
Yeah, you had
couldn't,
these super high expectations, but it still exceeded them
and
somehow.
you couldn't even put your expectation at the level that this movie delivered at.
Right.
And that's unbelievable.
That brings us to number 1, Endgame. So,
Endgame,
what are your thoughts on that?
one of the best movies I've ever seen. I just somehow manages to bring all 22 movies together. I don't know how you even do that. I mean, it's just like once you see that movie, you realize how impressive the whole thing is.
So,
like, we'll never see anything like that happen ever again.
I don't think so.
No.
I think we've
I don't know how you have
maxed it. I mean, that's it.
22 movies all intertwined like that and ended so perfectly.
So, are you aware of? I know you've watched all the movies now, but are you aware of Kevin Feige? Do you know who that is?
Yeah, he's like the producer. He's the brains behind
This is
all of
him.
it.
I mean, this is him.
It's
He did all that.
his entire brainchild.
Yeah, that's his vision.
Yep.
I don't. You've got to put like a ball around that man to keep him safe at all moments of
And now
time.
Star Wars has him.
And now he's going to do a Star Wars movie.
So, in Endgame, so I only had a week to think about it. You guys had a year between Infinity War and Endgame. How can they possibly resolve this?
Sure.
And of course, time travel crosses your mind. And I actually, before I saw it, I'm like, I hope they don't do time travel. It's like it almost feels like a cop out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cliche.
But then after seeing the movie, they do it differently, and you realize how great that is because by having
heist.
time travel, yeah, like it allows for some of these flashback moments,
Right.
Yeah.
that you wouldn't otherwise. Like if it wasn't for time travel, you wouldn't have the conversation between Tony Stark and his dad, which
Yeah.
is an awesome scene. You wouldn't have Captain America fighting himself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it allows you to go back and revisit the whole franchise,
Exactly. Yep.
which is genius.
So it almost feels like a cop out, but if you're gonna somehow wrap up this entire franchise, you almost need time travel to do it.
yeah,
And they
Right.
did it, and they did it in a good way.
And regardless, you knew you were going to get it because of Doctor Strange and because
Right.
of
Yeah.
like the way it's set
almost
up,
less
but-
far fetched because of Doctor Strange.
Right.
But I remember thinking that it's like, well, maybe they won't do time travel. I mean, they don't have the time stone anymore. How are they going to do it?
Yeah.
Yeah. But the whole pivotal moment that I just won't ever forget is in the big final fight scene when Tony Stark looks at Doctor Strange and he just gives him
Yeah, the
like
one.
one.
which
And then they
pivotal
all
moment?
realize-
'Cause there's that one. There's on your left.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I know that, but I'm saying like the end when he's like,
Yeah.
this is the one scenario, and then Tony Stark realizes like, this is it, like this is me.
Yeah,
Yep. So as far as movie beginning to end, I feel like I should do that. So Thor chops off Thanos' head right out of the gate.
Yeah, which is-
like I don't see that coming at
No.
all.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
and then he injects some humor there, like, why'd you do that? Well, I went for the head. And that's like exactly what he told me he should have done in Infinity War.
Yeah,
And it's like, well, shit. What are they gonna do now? It's like the Infinity Stones are gone. He's dead. Fuck.
how does this?
Yeah.
It's over
Yeah.
already.
And then 5 years pass. Like I didn't see that coming.
Yep.
And that introduces, Hawkeye going off on his tangent and just a lot of other things.
yeah, and
If
Ant
I,
Man being
if I had one complaint, it's that a rat brings
Yeah.
makes it all happen.
And that is the big thing is the internet went wild with that. Like the only reason why Avengers won is because of a rat.
I like that.
I don't have a
I
problem
like
with
that
it at all. I'm
aspect
just
of
saying,
it.
like,
it's just like happenstance,
yeah,
yeah, it's fine. Who
Yeah.
knows? I mean, there could have been something else that happened and they would have won too. Who knows? That's
Right.
just what happened.
right,
No, that was the one.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you're right.
right. That's what Doctor Strange saw. was
Maybe
that
Doctor
rat.
Strange was the rat.
But it is kind of cool because
Whoa.
in Ant-Man and the Wasp, the little teaser scene at the end of that one is he goes to the quantum level
Yes.
and they're all dusted or whatever you want to call it, snapped, and they become dust and he's trapped there,
Yep.
So it's just cool how he came back, and then what was it, 5 years passed for everyone else, and it
Yeah.
was like a half hour for him. That was cool.
Yeah. I mean, he was. I liked how they made Ant-Man like the pivotal one of the pivotal
Yeah,
characters.
Which
in
you
it.
don't
because I
really
like Ant-Man
see.
a lot, and it's kind of funny because in like Civil War, he's not in Infinity War, but like in Civil War, he's kind of like this goofy character, you
Right.
know, like he plays a role in it, but almost like a laughing stock a little bit, you know.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like he's a huge part of this, you know. It's really him and Tony Stark is who, you know, it's the two of them that figure it out.
Mm-hmm. Next.
Um,
Go ahead.
Yeah, so Rat brings him back. Black Widow and Hawkeye got to go get the. Oh, so they're going back in
Oh
time.
my
about
gosh. Why,
That's a big scene.
every
yeah.
time in that on that world, what's it called?
I can't remember. All I can think about is Mustafar, but that's from Star Wars.
That's Star Wars. Yeah, I can't think of
That
it
With the
right
Red
now
just-
either.
Skull.
Oh, you just get the feeling of despair when you see that planet too.
Yeah.
And honestly, I didn't know who was gonna go. Like, you don't really know. I guess it would be less dramatic if Hawkeye died,
Yes, I knew it was going to be her.
wouldn't it be?
Oh yeah, for sure. He's a less.
Like, you don't really care.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
like, well, his family's already dead. Yeah, let's just let him go.
Right.
Well, wait, they're back at that moment, aren't they?
No, not at that
no,
moment. they're
not at that point.
No, they're not.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let him go.
Yeah.
You know, but they don't do that.
No.
They take the person I don't want to die
Right. Well,
and then
yeah.
make her die.
For that reason, you knew that's what they were gonna do.
Right.
Because you care a lot more about. I do anyway. Black Widow.
Yeah. Well,
She's a great character.
Yeah. No. It's every beat of that movie just works perfectly, and then you get to the end and the big finale and everything, and then it's just not over. And then there's more, and then you get the whole final scene with Captain America where he goes back, and then
Right.
old Captain America's sitting
Yes.
there. Oh my god.
So anyway, it's a great fight scene. Very well done. The whole thing. And then, yeah, Tony Stark dying. I mean, that
yeah.
hits you a little bit.
Oh, it hits you a lot of bit.
Yeah.
Like that.
What really hit me the most in that movie was when he recorded that video for his daughter,
Oh yeah.
and he looks at the camera and says, "I love you 3000." Like that. Out of every point in that movie, that got me the most. It's
Yeah. It's unbelievable how they tie in so much heart into all of it. Like, every single piece of the movie, it's like there's an emotional attachment
Yeah.
to everything they've done.
Everybody, when John Favreau's sitting with the daughter, and
Yeah, he's like, "I'll buy you all the
cheeseburgers.
hamburger
I'll
or
buy you all the
cheeseburgers you
cheeseburgers
could
you
get."
want.
What the hell, man? And again, I always come back to this, but like, if I were to explain comic book characters to people and try to say, like, I'm serious, this is gonna make you cry, dude. Like, you're gonna get super attached to this, and he's talking about cheeseburgers because Tony Stark died. You're like, you're an idiot. Like,
Right.
go away.
yeah, that movie makes you realize just how attached you got to a lot of these characters.
Right. The attachment throughout all of this is unbelievable.
and that's why it's the highest grossing movie of all time.
Of all time, it finally beat out the Blue Cats,
Yeah. Which are,
Dances with Wolves in Space.
yeah.
which amazes me that movie's that high. But this one is
again,
by far better.
My biggest problem with a lot of movies, it's just very visually stimulating,
Right.
with a very weak story,
Yeah.
And
and the masses pour in for it. You know,
right,
What do you regret not seeing those movies in theaters?
nope,
Infinity War or Endgame?
nope.
Because I want to say it was.
I mean, I'm sure they're better in theaters, but I liked watching them just the way I did.
yeah.
That's
The one thing that was so crazy about watching Endgame in theaters, and we were in a pretty packed theater,
yeah, very.
it felt dead in there. Like when, or maybe I'm thinking of Infinity War. It was Endgame. It was like so quiet, and there's moments in that where you just feel the air go out of the room,
Yes,
and you like start to, you almost feel like you're in a vacuum. It's hard to explain.
It is hard to explain. There
You could
was
feel the collective emotion of all the people in that theater,
yeah,
and you were like riding that wave,
Yeah.
and it was weird.
yeah. I never thought of it about that way, and I haven't talked about this movie in a long time. Either one of those, like Infinity Game or Infinity War and Endgame, and now like talking about it again, it brings back all of that emotion again, and seeing it in theaters with all those people. You didn't even Like I didn't even realize there was people in the room.
You're right.
And I think every other person was the exact same way. But in your situation, Tim, where
There literally was nobody else in the room.
right, but even in your situation where you watched it that way, you had never seen them in the theaters to begin with. I don't think you lose any of that.
Well, you're playing off a whole different dynamic. So like the one thing, well, quickly before I say that, the other thing about in that theater was I felt like is like nothing else in the world existed.
Exactly.
Like you didn't have another thought in your brain.
Not a single moment.
It was, you were so sucked in, it was crazy. But to see the movies like that, I thought was cool, and to see them spread out over the course of 10 years was satisfying and cool. But it's a whole different experience to do what you did.
Yeah.
To
It
watch
is.
them over 6 months. And I don't know what I would like better. Honestly, I would probably like to do it the way you did it better.
Well, everything is so fresh. I mean, you don't
That's right.
forget any details from
Right.
one to the next.
You are literally like he said in the beginning of the show. You're like a unicorn. This it has not happened. Like I'm sure there's other people in the world that have done this exact same thing,
Not many.
but there are not many people that are in your situation that have watched all of these movies in that short of a time span and
For the
can
first
reflect on that.
Yeah.
You know, it's unbelievable.
So, what are you throwing out just as like no good?
Oh, what movie?
Yeah. And do you think it's odd that none of us had Black Panther in our top 12?
Yeah.
Even though like most people have it in their top 5.
Yeah. It's a good movie.
It's one of the more honestly. It's kind of
It's
one
like
of the
the
more.
first movie nominated for an Oscar, right? Of any of these?
I think it's the first comic book movie ever nominated for an Oscar.
But wasn't Dark Knight?
No. Heath Ledger got Best Actor.
But the movie itself.
the movie was not.
The
Best
movie
Picture.
wasn't, huh? Oh.
No, I like that one. I wouldn't throw that one out. Just it doesn't make my list because I think all of these are better. But
Yeah.
I think it's still a good movie.
Great villain though.
What
Oh,
would you
yeah.
put as your 22nd movie?
22nd movie. I need a list. I gotta pull up a list.
Yeah.
For me, it's got to be
Like
man, that's so tough.
Thor: The Dark World.
Yeah,
was not,
probably.
I was not big on that one.
That's a rough one. That's rough. But again, in Endgame, they bring it back as
Yeah,
like a
I didn't
pivotal
realize
moment.
They
Oh, yeah.
redeem it, and
Yeah.
I didn't have any memory of that movie when they did those scenes. We didn't even
I
talk about
laughed
Fat Thor.
because I almost didn't either, and I had watched it not that long ago.
Right.
You know, it's like I have very little memory of it, and it's like, yeah, I watched that movie 5 months ago.
Right.
You know,
Yeah, it doesn't advance anything in the universe.
We didn't even talk about Fat Thor. What do you think about that? Because that was another controversial kind of thing.
I don't know.
A lot of people loved it.
I thought it was funny.
It's funny. I
was funny.
personally didn't want it.
Yeah. Well,
That's
you
the
said
only
before,
flaw of the movie
You
to
want
me.
to see Thor be more powerful.
I want to want to
And-
see Thor be Thor.
And through all of these movies where Thor was in it, I've thought that too. Like,
Yeah.
I don't even have the comic book background, but it's like he's a god, you know.
That's part of
a
his
lot
art.
Exactly.
A lot of these other people are just men, you know, and he's the actual god among them. Why is he not more powerful?
Yeah.
You know?
And like,
It's like
he's
if you're
thought
gonna-
of that way on his own planet.
Right.
Right.
So I don't know.
He's pretty powerful in Ragnarok.
He just needed to
Yeah, he
Yeah,
is.
he was.
Extremely.
And that's where he gets the whole like lightning and like he is a god then.
Stormbreaker.
The
Yeah.
problem is
I just
that
wish that
after that
power
it
would have
ended.
continued through.
Yeah. That was my big thing. Is
That
like
was
it
his
didn't
arc.
continue.
I feel like you're missing his arc though.
I get it. No, I do understand that. I'm just saying, me personally would have liked to see that arc differently.
Yeah.
That doesn't take anything away from the movies. I mean, obviously, I still love these movies.
Right.
Man, I don't know what else.
If I'm going to be critical, though.
I do probably put the Dark World at the bottom. But looking through all of these,
They're all pretty strong.
good. Yeah.
So what are you most excited for? So there's another Thor movie coming.
Yep.
Love and Thunder. We got a Black Widow movie coming.
Yeah, the direction they're going, I'm looking forward to Love and Thunder. The Black Widow movie, that almost seems weird.
It's gonna be a prequel.
Well, it has to be. She's
Yeah.
dead. But
I'm actually
Oh, good point.
I'm
Tim.
super excited about that, but that's just because I love the villain, which you're probably not all that
I'm not
familiar,
familiar
with.
with. It just
Who was it?
Taskmaster.
It almost
Okay, I
seems
guess I didn't realize
odd that she has her own movie. Hasn't had one before. Now she's dead, and she has her own movie.
Does seem a little odd. Yeah.
But
I think
don't I was sad when she died, so now there's more of her.
Yeah.
You know?
I don't. I mean,
And the idea that it's a prequel, like, I don't know.
Do you need it?
Will Tony Stark be in that?
yes.
Yeah,
He's gonna be in
they're-
that. In
Did they confirm that already, right?
I don't know if it's that. He's in something as a hologram. I remember something about that, but I don't know if he's in Black Widow or not. Like Captain Marvel 2 is not something I'm sitting around waiting for. The only reason maybe Black Panther 2 would be because I'm pretty sure they're going to introduce Namor.
Yes. I think that's-
seems likely.
I think that's what they talk about because in is it in Endgame where
Yes.
they say like there's been an earthquake in the ocean?
Yeah.
Yeah. It set that up pretty good.
So-
Because Aquaman came out and they have to fight off Aquaman, you know.
So again, I have no comic book background, but the Eternals is one that's coming out. I've
Oh,
read
yeah, I
briefly
forgot
on
about
that. That sounds
And
good.
that's a super short run in the comic book world too. And
That's another Guardians of the Galaxy type thing that
Yeah,
was
I
not
think-
popular and nobody really.
but I think they're gonna kill it.
oh yeah,
I mean, it's gonna be amazing.
So yeah, another Spider-Man movie. That's
Yeah.
probably what I'm most looking forward to.
Here's what I'm
Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. What the fuck does that mean?
it's like it's like the Marvel kung. It's gonna be kung fu.
Mm.
I
It
love
is, and
kung fu.
it sounds like it's gonna be pretty sweet.
Yeah, it has a terrible name.
I don't know anything about it. I don't know anything about Shang-Chi at all, really. But I think it's going to be awesome.
I don't like the Legend of the Ten Rings name though.
Right. Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah.
That doesn't unnecessary.
My big problem going forward here is that they're going to be splitting these things up between Disney Plus and the movie world. So
Yeah.
you have to watch. They're tying in TV shows to the movie world, and I think that's going to be a big time flaw.
Oh, I don't think so.
I do. I don't think it's going to work as well as just putting out movies.
I don't think they'll ever be able to recreate what they've done here.
No,
you could.
I'm not saying that they need to recreate what they've done. I just don't think it'll be as watchable for people. Like,
Right.
not everybody is going to get Disney Plus, regardless of how great they have things. And I think it's going to take away from their movies
I don't know.
because they're going to be tied together.
You know, another movie that I would put towards the bottom. I'm not saying the second from the bottom because it would be The Dark World. That's bottom. But Captain America: The First Avenger. I love him as a character.
You had it in your top 10.
Oh,
I'm
you're
with
killing me.
It
I'm with
just-
you. I liked.
You guys,
I
are
wouldn't put it
idiots.
in my towards the bottom for sure, but it was.
Look through a list of movies and tell me where you put it. Then,
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell
because
you
a
where
lot
I
of them
put
are
mine.
really good. But that's just a weaker movie out of all of them, I think.
I don't think so. If
No?
you look at the character, no. I don't think so because you don't have the world without him. It's the same as Iron Man. I know it's based off Iron Man because it's the very first movie that comes out, but you don't have any of this without Captain America.
No, I agree that it's very important.
But a lot of the argument that people have made is that Iron Man like set the tone because it's the first. Guardians of the Galaxy #1 like set the tone because it's the first. Captain America, the first Avenger, he's the first Avenger. He's
Yeah.
the first guy that brings it all together. He's got to be up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it does set up
But the
his character arc pretty well.
Yeah.
They pay off a lot from that movie,
And
Yeah,
you,
they
and
do in Endgame.
which is surprising.
Yeah.
That's one though I'd have to rewatch because honestly, I don't really remember a lot of it.
and it's him and Bucky's story together. Like, Bucky's obviously a huge part as the Winter Soldier throughout the rest of the movies. All of that plays off of that one moment that they're going to World War II together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotta have it up there.
So that's it. That's the number 10.
Yeah.
You
so
really,
this
you really took a journey there.
we
I
did.
did. I'm glad that I did. Actually, it was worth it.
I'm glad you did.
What about Far From Home? What
So
was
excited.
your thoughts on that? Because did you feel like that was an
Oh,
epilogue? They kind of said it was an epilogue. Did
Yeah,
it
I
feel
mean-
like that to you?
Yeah, Endgame definitely left you with a couple questions. The biggest one would be, so if all these people came back, so half the population is wiped out, and 5 years has progressed, and then they all come back, what the hell happens there?
Right.
Yeah.
And they answer that question right off the bat, like the very, very beginning of that movie. I think they
Right.
answer it.
Right.
So it does a good job there. Yeah, I think it's a good epilogue.
and it sets up the future
Yeah.
It does.
of
Yeah.
with the multiverse. Although we're not really sure if it did or not, but they mention
Yeah, you don't
it,
really
but
know.
you don't really know. So that's I just consider that not. I don't really consider that a part of those run-of movies. I thought it was gonna be.
It's almost like the first half was an epilogue, and then the second half was
Is the be-
different. Like
yeah.
they
It's
felt
like
like
the
two
beginning
different
of the
movies.
new.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I agree. Awesome. Well, I'm glad you lived that because I think it's an incredible take that none of us would have ever gotten.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh, and it was kind of funny after I watched the last one. So the Spider-Man, it's like, now what am I gonna watch? You know, because
Now you're just an
Now you're in the
you're
world
an
with the rest of
idiot
us.
like the rest of
Yeah.
us. You
Yeah.
just gotta like wait and wait and wait and wait.
And come on a podcast and just talk about it all over again.
you're right.
The
That's
great
what
thing
we-
about being in that position though is like they announce something that's coming up and you're like, another reason to stay alive for another year.
My only reason for living. Love my kids, but I've been waiting for this movie.
Oh man,
Awesome. Well, this week was longer than a 1 hour episode.
Oh, was it?
that's fine.
Yeah, no, we're good. We don't have a strict timeline here, but
We didn't even get to talk about farming and '90s music.
Oh,
we
no.
didn't. We'll have to save
We'll
that
have
for
to
another
save it
day.
for another episode.
We've got more of these coming.
Yeah. If you want to check out our bonus podcasts that don't exist yet, but hopefully do by the time this podcast comes out,
Correct.
check out Snarf, our
There you go.
patreon.com/Snarf Comics. We got a bunch of great patrons already that have signed on, but if you're listening to this, you can do $1 a month.
Yeah, we've got a lot of options for you,
Yeah.
and I'll call you a duchess to your face.
But you need to get at the $5 a month level to get your bonus podcasts. So
Right.
Yeah, don't be a cheap ass people.
We're not saying that. You could be cheap if you
yeah,
want.
you can totally.
Yeah,
not.
I don't want you guys to say it, but I can say it.
Yeah, you can. That's true. Thank you for saying that. So for Snarf Talk this week,
I've been Chris.
I'm Jerry.
I'm Tim.
See ya.